Welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is a human centered leadership coach for CEOs and CDOs and teams, none other than Mr. Andrew Hinkelman. Welcome, Mr. Andrew, on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Absolutely. Thank you, Daniel. So, I'm Andrew Hinkelman. I'm an executive coach. I work with engineers, technical CEOs, founders, and their teams. I do executive coaching. My background is in engineering and running IT teams. So, a lot of the work that I do is helping engineers and engineering leaders build their bench and build their leadership skills.
Mr. Andrew Hinkelman, I thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. And today let's talk about authenticity under pressure, staying real when you are the one everyone watching. So tell us, when all eyes are on you, there's a pressure to perform a version of yourself. What is the fundamental difference between being formative and being authentically compelling under pressure?
Well, one of the things that you need to be able to do is speak from your heart and speak from your gut and be intuitive about the situation you're in. And people who are faking the situation and faking how they show up, pretending to be something they're not, are not going to be able to do that because they are not going to connect with the people around them. As humans, we have a highly evolved sense for when someone is pretending or faking. We know pretty easily and pretty quickly when someone is not being real. So, when you need people to listen to you and to follow your leadership and to respond to your directions, you need to be speaking from your heart and be real about it. And that's truly what authenticity is about.
Indeed, should be come from the heart. How does the feeling of being constantly watched amplify our inner critic and trigger a chameleon effect, making us instinctively want to morph into what we think others want to see?
Yeah, fear, right? Fear creeps in. We start to doubt ourselves. We start to wonder if we're doing the right thing. We wonder if we're saying the right thing and what's going on there, right?
Yes.
We have a million years of evolution for us to protect ourselves, and our ego is constantly asking, are we part of the group? Are we being accepted by the group? Are we going to get rejected by the group? And so that fear kicks in, and people do what? They tighten up, right? They tighten up, they play small, their bodies constrict, and their thinking constricts. So we have to do things to battle against that and stay centered so that we can actually be bigger in big moments. So we need to show up bigger in the big moments.
Bigger, better, and bolder. Wow.
Absolutely.
When external pressure are pulling you in 100 directions, what is the internal anchor you must have to keep from drifting away from your core self?
It's a great question. And you're never going to have that if you don't have it before that moment, right?
Yes.
It's not something that, you can't just have a blue pill or a red pill, right? It's something you have to do the work, right? You do the work every day, and you can stay anchored and stay centered. So for a lot of people, they've been getting up early, having a morning routine, taking care of themselves, and doing the things they need to do to be at their best. And then a high pressure situation comes along and they are ready. They're ready to meet the moment. But you can't just make it up on the spot. It has to be, and this is where authenticity comes in. It's something that you're building every day before that big moment comes along.
Big moment for sure. And how can, or yes, how can you prepare for high pressure moments without scripting your authenticity into a rigid performance? What does practicing being yourself actually look like,
It's a
Mr.
good
Andrew?
question. Yeah, it's a good question, Daniel. You know, we want to be the same person in all situations. So I have a saying, and you've probably heard it before, but the way we do one thing is the way we do all things. So the person you are at work, in your community, at church, with your family, with your neighbors, that is a continuous version of who you are. And so by being consistent and knowing yourself, then you can stay anchored and stay in that moment. When you get pushed and pulled in different directions, you're going to say things you didn't mean. You're going to make mistakes. We're all humans. What happens?
Yes.
And sometimes you have to apologize. Sometimes you have to go back later and clean it up. It's okay, right? We're learning. And so every day you have a chance to get a little bit closer to yourself and why you were put on the earth.
Interesting perspective, Mr. Andrew, and very well said. In a high stakes meeting or on a stage, what are simple, subtle techniques to create a moment of pause to reconnect with your genuine thoughts and feelings before responding?
Well, good practice is there are a lot of different versions of mindfulness, okay? And what we really mean when we say mindfulness is staying present in the moment. And again, it's not something that you magically do right in the moment. It's a practice. And the practice might be centering on your breath, feeling your breath. It might be just as simple as feeling your feet on the floor and getting used to that ahead of time. Then, in the moment when everyone else is looking at you, they're waiting for your incredible, brilliant answer, you can bring yourself back and get anchored on your breath and just feel yourself in the moment so that you have that connection to yourself and to your body. And that's the thing that will help you stay centered and not let your mind run away.
Mr. Andrew, how can the deliberate and measured sharing of doubt, limitation, or I don't know, actually build more trust and connection than projecting invulnerable confidence?
Well, if you think about the people that you really connect with, it's not the people that look perfect on Instagram,
Yes.
right? It's fun to surf Instagram and scroll Instagram and see all the perfect beautiful people on their beautiful vacations and on their yachts, right? But who do you actually connect with? It's usually someone who shares a little bit of vulnerability, right? And people think a little too much about how to connect with people. It's really truly just as simple as sharing the highs and the lows. And so we connect with people who are genuine, who are authentic, and by authentic, I mean not afraid to show up imperfectly. And these are people that we connect with because we understand, look, I'm a human, you're a human, nobody's perfect all the time, and nobody needs to pretend that they are, right? So
Yes.
so those are the people that we all connect more with. As much as we sort of get entertained by perfection in social media, the people we actually care about and connect with come across as real human beings.
What's your framework for responding to a hostile or tricky question in a way that is both authentic to your values and strategically sound without being defensive or evasive?
I like to ask questions back in that situation. So, one of the things that you can do is really look for understanding. So, a typical default response is that you're going to constrict, you're going to feel like you're on defensive, you're going to feel like you have to protect yourself, especially if someone's accusing you of something. You're going to be defensive. Defensiveness is naturally tight and closed down. Your thinking is going to constrict. But when you stay curious and you say, well, what, tell me again, help me understand what you're asking. And you sense a little bit of what the real issue is, what the question behind the question is, you can better address that. Because usually in those situations, people are coming at you with emotion and they want to be heard. Most people who are angry and coming at you are just randomly expressing anger, and you happen to be there in that moment.
In an age of transparency, Mr. Andrew, where is the line between healthy curating that you share to maintain appropriate boundaries and unhealthy concealing things that would damage trust if discovered?
Well, it's a tough question, right? And it's one that you constantly need to gauge. So, you know, I think it's you set a starting point, and if you're in a professional environment, you start by sharing the things that you're comfortable saying to anybody. Like if you your car breaks down, you get in a fight with, a family member, or you're coming into work and you're angry because something didn't go well. If you would say it to anybody anywhere and it doesn't need to be a secret, then it's probably safe to share. But if it's something that is incredibly personal or worse, about somebody else, a lot of times we share things that aren't ours to share, right? So those are situations where you've gone over the line. So until you know the level of trust and privacy, you need to assume that you should only be sharing things that can be shared publicly.
Mr. Andrew, as a human-centered leadership coach, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
Well, I'm on a mission to work with engineering leaders because engineers and technologists, analysts, quantitative people, people that are in roles that are typically very, very um, centered around the mind, around the use of analytical skills, around engineering, are completely underserved by leadership and development, by training. And this is why, in most organizations, if an HR team brings some kind of training, it is largely ignored and dismissed by the technical people or the analytical people because it doesn't make any sense to them and it doesn't address their needs. My background is in technology and engineering. And now, as a certified executive coach, I'm bringing training that addresses a lot of the shortcomings that I see in technology organizations. And so, in the next 3 to 5 years, my goal is to reach more and more organizations and have an impact on these people.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. Andrew, and looking forward for more success. And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be a leadership coach like you?
Well, funny we should be talking about authenticity because there are a lot of coaches out there that just call themselves coaches. And of course, some are well meaning and some are very good. But you don't know that unless you look for someone who actually is trained and certified. So there are certifying bodies. So if someone is thinking about getting into coaching, get trained, get certified, and start to practice on yourself because developing yourself and improving yourself, building a strong sense of self awareness in particular, is going to be your first step.
Thank you for that advice, Mr. Andrew. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Absolutely. One of my favorite authors is Stephen Pressfield. So Stephen Pressfield is very well known for having written a book called War of Art. But the book I want to recommend to everyone is the follow up to the War of Art. It's called Turning Pro. Now, Turning Pro is positioned as an answer to the key question that is posed in the War of Art, which is what does it mean to go from being an amateur in your life and in your work to being a professional? And what does it mean to be a professional? Not just not just in a corporate setting or in your work, but in your life. And so turning pro really outlines what it means. And it means things like getting up early, doing the work, being organized, being able to commit to yourself to do the work even if you don't feel like doing it, and staying present, being in solitude, in silence. And we contrast that with an amateur. The lifestyle of the amateur is someone who's distracted, someone who is constantly buffering, um, always wants to be away from their work, talks about their work, but doesn't do their work. So, what I love about turning pro is that it really simplifies and brings it down to earth because turning pro is really all about the nitty gritty work of honoring yourself and honoring your ideas.
Turning pro is something else, and thank you for that recommended book, Mr. Andrew. And how do you distill your core non negotiable values into a practical compass that can guide your decisions and communication in a real time under pressure or pressure?
One of the things that you really start to learn when you follow some sort of framework day to day, week to work, week to week, and you really commit to a plan, is you're faced with yourself. What do you do when you don't feel like it? What do you do when you're tired? What do you do when you didn't sleep well? What do you do when you're busy and everybody needs something from you? Do you still show up? Do you still do the work? Do you still do the thing that moves you? Um, these should be non-negotiables for you, and that's one of the things that I think is called trying. So you just keep on trying, and every day is not perfect. We're human. We're going to make mistakes. It's okay. But, you know, we get back on the horse and we try every day. And so for me personally, that's my mantra, which is, every day might not be perfect, but every day I'm going to try and I'm going to honor my ideas and my vision.
What is the most common inauthenticity trap you see leaders and high profile individuals fall into, and what is the antidote?
It's a good question, Daniel. One of the traps that people fall into is that they are constantly looking around and trying to see who has power, who makes the decisions, who has the power, and what do I need to be accepted by them. So an example is a lot of times in an organization, whether it's a community group or the corporate setting, there's a jerk, right? There's someone
Mhm.
who gets angry. There's someone who yells and screams, and a lot of times they're in a position of power. They're very senior. Sometimes it's a CEO, or maybe it could be even, a founder of a company. And then you wind up with a whole bunch of people that are trying to act like them because they're thinking that's success. That's the direction that I have to go in. I just have to yell better, right? So the
Yes.
trap really is mimicking someone else instead of understanding your own internal guidance system. Who are you? What moves you? What's your method for solving a problem or communicating? How do you operate in conflict that feels aligned with your own values instead of mimicking someone else?
Mr. Andrew, why are audiences, employees, and public so adept at sensing inauthenticity, even when the worlds are perfect?
Well, I think that, what we're really talking about is a million-year evolution of our minds, right? So we are so incredibly tuned in to other people and how they operate. Are they threat? Are they in our tribe? Are they outside of our tribe? Are they safe? Are they not safe? So we are, whether it's subconscious, whether we notice it or not, we're constantly evaluating people and situations. So when it comes down to detecting how other people are coming across, even the most perfect dressed, the perfectly spoken person, the perfect idea, the perfect words, whatever it is, perfect tone, we can detect when someone has a kind of a thin layer of fake inauthenticity. We can detect that pretty quickly. So, I think that's a skill that everyone has, and it's evolved over time to keep us safe. It's very, very interesting when you notice yourself in a public place and how you're reading the people around you. It's very interesting.
Indeed, something that everyone had it. So, Mr. Andrew, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well, geography 101 fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and mental health 101, love letters in third season, and movie 101 review, music 101 in fourth season, and science 101 and sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Andrew, beyond just feeling better, what is the tangible strategic advantage of choosing authenticity over a polished facade when stakes are high?
It's really feeling like you can sleep at night because you've been true to yourself. You are being authentic, you're being genuine, you're being yourself. And you know what? When you do that, you make it a lot easier on yourself as well. Because a situation may not go perfectly every time, but you always want to walk away from it feeling like you did your best. And doing your best includes honoring your own internal guidance system and your values.
Mr. Andrew Henkelman, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Absolutely. Thank you, Daniel. So I invite everyone to look me up on LinkedIn. I'm Andrew Hinkleman. I'm pretty easy to find there. And if you go to my profile page, you will see under my name, there's a link that says book a discovery call. And that is strictly a coaching call. It's not a sales call. It's a chance for you to experience what real leadership coaching, business coaching, executive coaching is all about. So we'll talk about you, some of the challenges that you're facing, and you'll get a feel for what coaching is all about. So I encourage everyone to book time with me, and you will come away with insights and ideas to help you move forward.
Well, people, let's support Mr. Andrew Henkelman because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering leadership coaching to come. So, Mr. Andrew, thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Daniel.
More to come, people. See you soon.